What is going on, YouTube? I am Germ here. In this video today, we're going to be going over MSI Group C. This is the only group of the three groups at MSI so far that we actually know all four of the teams. All four of the teams are locked in. So my plan in this video is to go over each of the four teams that are now confirmed for Group C. I believe we can scroll down and actually see them. We have Detonation FocusMe, Infinity Esports, Cloud9, and Damwon Kia. We're going to be running through each team, talking about how they did in their respective regional leagues this year, what they're looking like a little bit coming into MSI, their players, what their league was like, what their season was like, just so you guys have a better idea of what each of these teams is kind of looking like coming into this tournament. Because I know a lot of the people that watch my channel watch the LEC, or they watch the LCS, or they watch both, or they watch a little bit of LCK or a little bit of LPL, but there's nobody out there that watches all these leagues, that's watched all these teams. So I'm going to be running through, giving you guys just a nice little refresher, a nice little update all about Group C, so you just have a little bit more background and information headed into the tournament. We're not going to be so much focusing on like predictions or anything like that just yet. That stuff will all come with time, but yeah, I just want to, give you guys some information, just help you guys learn a little bit, help you guys do some of the review work. We'll also be talking about how each of these regions and teams did at the past two international events, so kind of the relative strength of each of these leagues coming into the tournament as well. So you just maybe understand what's going on a little bit better before you watch MSI. Before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick, if you guys have not already, please take a second, smash that like button. I would appreciate it so much. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. With that being said, let's get right into this. First of all, here is Group C. It is the LCK, the LCS, the LLA, and the LJL. This is Korea, North America, Latin America, and Japan. These are the four leagues that are going to be competing in Group C. And like I said, just how it worked out, these groups were randomly selected with, like there was a bunch of pools and stuff. So it's supposed to be like you have a tier 1 team in the LCK, you have a tier 2 team in the LCS, and then I think the tier 3 in the LLA and the LJL. So it's not completely random, but it's obviously, they tried to make balanced groups and everything. But just with how it worked out, Group C is the only group that has all of their regions done with the playoffs. They have all four of their MSI teams locked in. So I wanted to work from the bottom up. We're going to be starting out with Detonation FocusMe. We're going to be starting out with the LJL. This is how the LJL went in 2021. So first, we can actually take a look at their roster of players for Detonation FocusMe. They have Eevee. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of these as well. They have Eevee, who is a Japanese player. Then they have a Korean mid-jung duo in Steel and Arya. And then they have Yutapon and Kazu in the bot lane. That is what their team is looking like. They have some Korean coaches. So this team is a nice mix of Japanese and Korean players. I believe the LJL is actually one of the newer competitive regions, one of the newer servers. So I think League, if I heard correctly, League is starting to grow more and more in popularity over in Japan, but it's still not as big. It's still not necessarily as big of a deal. So the LJL is kind of seen as one of the weaker minor regions currently. So just kind of keeping that stuff in mind. In the regular season, I can't even talk. In the regular season, Detonation FocusMe went 12-2. They had an 86% win rate, and they ended the season on a 4-game win streak. Throughout the season, they dropped games to Rascal Jester, and they dropped a game to Sengoku Gaming. So they were the top team. They dropped one match to the second place team and one match to the third place team. So they did a good job kind of being a front runner throughout the whole season. Yeah, they had some close series against the number 2 team, close series against the number 3 team, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, they handled them all how they should have. They took care of business. And then obviously they were the 1 seed headed into the spring playoffs, where obviously we know that they ended up winning the league. They got it done, but let's take a look how they actually had a matchup against Rascal Jester in the second round of the playoffs that they did win 3-1, which moved them on to the grand finals, where they took on V3 Esports and were able to win that series 3-1 as well. So overall, they went 12-2, and then in the playoffs, they went 6-2 with 2 3-1 series. So they were, the 1 seed of the regular season. It seems like they were a pretty dominant team throughout the whole time. Had a really great record, really great win rate, and then were able to carry that over into the playoffs. So it really does seem like at the end of the day, the LJL is sending their best team, is sending their best representative. No crazy upsets in the playoffs or anything like that. So that's kind of what we're getting here. We can take a look at some of the players' stats. I want to take a look from the spring season, not necessarily the spring playoffs. to get a better idea about some of these players, we have Eevee, who he had a 3.59 KDA in the top lane. His most played champions were Gnar, Gragas, and Akali. So nothing too crazy there. You know, Gnar and Gragas are very, very standard top laners. The Akali, maybe a little bit spicy, might be a little bit interesting. But his stats overall are not that amazing. Where it does get good for this team is the mid-jung duo. They're two Korean players, Steel and Arya. Steel with a 7 KDA, most played being Olaf, Talia, and Udyr. Again, nothing really crazy as far as the champion picks there, but the stats are pretty crazy. Average game of 2.5, 1.4, and 7.5 for 7 KDA. But then finally, in the mid lane, Arya, in 11 games, Detonation FocusMe went 10-1 in the games that he played in the regular season, having a 12 KDA, most played Orianna, Seraphine, and Syndra. Orianna, Syndra, we're seeing a ton of that all over the world, and Seraphine's been very good throughout the season. Not necessarily every mid laner loves a player. Sometimes she's a support, sometimes she's an AD carry, but you know, pretty standard controlled mage pool there, but the 12 KDA is really, really standing out to me. Then we have Udapon in the bot lane with a 6.79 KDA, really good stats. Kai'Sa, Tristana, Xayah, and then finally Kazu being the Japanese support here with a 3.3 KDA. The lowest of all 5 of the starters, with a Rel, Alistar, and Gragas being his most played. So that's kind of what you need to know about Detonation FocusMe coming into the tournament. Again, when we take a look at the LJL, the last 2 international competitions, we're talking about 2020 Worlds and 2019 Worlds, because 2020 MSI didn't happen, obviously, so the last 2 international events we have to go off for the LJL. Looking at what they've done historically, last year in the play-ins, they had V3 Esports was their team that they sent. They went 1-3. They lost to LGD. They lost to PSG Talon. They won a game against Rainbow 7, which was the team that the jungler for FlyQuest, I can't think of his name, Jose Dioto, was actually on, and then they lost to the Unicorns of Love as well. So they were knocked out in the play-in stage at Worlds. They did have the worst record of any of the play-in stage. They tied with INTZ, so that's kind of what we're looking at there. And then dating back to 2019 Worlds, the LJL representative was Detonation FocusMe. Then they went 1-3, again having the worst record of any team, you know, in the play-in stage. They actually went 0-2 against Isris Gaming, and they went 1-1 with their 1 win coming against Splice, who were the European representatives, obviously. So, you know, LJL has won a game at each of their last 2 international competitions, but it hasn't been very good. They are definitely the heavy underdogs, just as far as historical kind of ratings and stuff coming into this tournament. But yeah, that's just kind of an idea there. Next, we can take a look at the LLA, the Latin American League. We have the opening promotion. Actually, I wanted to skip over this. I want to look at the opening season, where we can see that the representative is going to be Infinity Esports. So for Infinity Esports, their team is Bugex, Solid Snake, Cody, White Lotus, and Ackerman. So actually a lot of players we've seen on international stage and stuff before. A lot of players with actually some decent star power. In the Phase 1, Infinity Esports went 10-4. They ended up finishing second. They were just behind Furious Gaming. And then in Phase 2, which took the top 5 teams and had them continuing to play up against each other for a couple more games, Infinity Esports went 2-2, finishing second place again. This time All Knights was the only team that finished ahead of them. So overall, a combined record of what, 12-6 for Infinity Esports. So not necessarily a crazy record, not a bad record. They were solid, but they weren't the best team in Phase 1. They weren't the best team in Phase 2 either. But heading into the spring playoffs, we had the top 4 teams of Furious, Infinity getting the 2 seed, All Knights, and then Rainbow 7. With Infinity taking on All Knights in the round 2, the semifinals, and beating them 3-1 before a very, very close series in the finals, obviously between Infinity and Furious Gaming, where Infinity were able to pull off the upset 3-2. Again, after not finishing first in Phase 1 or 2, they were able to win the grand final. So unlike the LJL, there is a little bit of a case to be made that maybe Infinity isn't the best LLA team. Maybe the LLA is not actually sending their top representative. Maybe this was just a team that performed the best on this patch, or maybe they just got hot at the right time. You know, it's hard to tell exactly because, again, they had between Phase 1, Phase 2, and the playoffs, they had 3 different teams performing the best at the time. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt there, obviously. As far as the season stats, we can take a look at the player stats for Infinity Esports. We have Ackerman up in the support position with an 8.24 KDA. Obviously, pretty crazy stats there. Rel, Alistar, Thresh. Not really a ton of spicy champion picks for many of these players that we've seen so far. Bugax in the top lane. 3.28 KDA. Obviously, that's a little bit low. Maybe not the craziest there. Gnar, Camille, and Sion. The Camille obviously standing out a little bit there. A little bit spicy. Gnar and Sion, not really anything too crazy. Cody in the mid lane with the 4.5 KDA. Zoe actually being his most played. Azir and Syndra, obviously Azir and Syndra have kind of been nerfed over time. Zoe's been a champion we've seen pop up here and there kind of around the world, but it is a little bit surprising to me to see that be his most played champion. Solid Snake in the jungle with a 3.76 KDA, most played. Udyr, Hecarim, and Lilia. That's pretty much going to be every single jungler headed into the tournament. And then White Lotus, who we obviously know has been a beast historically with a 6 KDA, playing Kai'Sa, Xayah, and Senna the most. When we take a look at historically what Latin America has been able to do, 2020 Worlds, how I talked about Jose Dioto and Rainbow 7, they kind of burst onto the scene, having a pretty good performance. They went 2-2 in Group B. They were able to take a game off LGD. They did lose to PSG Talon. They beat Unicorns of Love, and they actually dropped a game to V3 Esports, which is kind of a bad loss. And then in the knockout stages, Rainbow 7 did get 3-0'd by LGD. So they were knocked out, but they at least made it to the knockout stage. You know, a little bit better performances in the LJL. At Worlds 2019, we have Latin America, the representative being Isurus Gaming, where they went 2-2 in the group stage. They again qualified for the knockout round. They 2-0'd Detonation FocusMe, and they got 0-2'd by Splice. And then when they actually went on to the knockout round, they lost 3-1 to Hong Kong Attitude. So they also did not qualify for the main stage at Worlds. But like I said, when compared to the LJL, you know, the LLA has had a little bit better results more recently. So Infinity Esports maybe a little bit higher ranking than Detonation FocusMe there. Next up, we have Cloud9. Obviously, the North American representatives here is the LCS in 2021. We have Fudge, Blabber, Perks, Sven, and Vulcan, coached by Rainover and Mithy. This team finished second during the preseason tournament that the LCS held. Obviously, the lock-in tournament, they lost 3-2 to Team Liquid in the finals. As far as Cloud9, they did have the best record in the regular season. They went 13-5. They were seen as favorites headed into the playoffs, but TSM and Team Liquid were really, really close. They were just one game behind them, and then even Dignitas and 100 Thieves were only 2 games behind them, and Evil Genius is only 3. So really, NA was kind of jam-packed at the top. Cloud9 obviously was really, really strong with a lot of very good players. Blabber, Perks, Sven, all of that. And then heading into the mid-season showdown, the spring playoffs, whatever you want to call it, Cloud9 started out with a 3-0 of 100 Thieves. They ended up taking down Team Liquid 3-1 in the semifinals, or the winners bracket finals, whatever you want to call it, before finally taking down Team Liquid 3-2 in the finals. As far as what the Cloud9 players were doing this season, you had the first All-Pro team in the LCS composed of 3 of these players. We had Blabber, who was the overall MVP of the league. We had Perks and Sven. And then in the second team, LCS All-Pro, we had Vulcan, and Fudge was their only member of Cloud9 to not make an All-Pro team. So maybe there's a little bit of a weakness there. You know, some people would say, obviously, I think Fudge has gotten a lot better as the season's gone on. I think international experience is going to be awesome for him. We can take a look at the player stats real quick for Cloud9. Obviously, in the jungle, we have Blabber, 5.13 KDA, Talia, Lilia, Rek'Sai. Obviously, the Rek'Sai standing out a little bit. Fudge with a 5.96 KDA in the top lane, always on tank duty a lot, with Gragas, Camille, and Jax. Perks with the 4.5 KDA, Azir, Tristana, and Orianna. He's obviously going to be a threat with the marksman in the mid lane, maybe a little bit more than other mid laners might be. Vulcan with the 3.3 KDA, Rel, Alistar, and Thresh. And finally, Sven with a 5.25, Kai'Sa, Misfortune, and Caitlyn. So, Worlds 2020. NA has not had the best results recently, obviously, but Team Liquid was our representative. They did go 3-1. They dropped a game to INTZ. But they were able to take down Legacy, they were able to take down Mad Lions, and they were able to take down Super Massive, and then they went on to or did they just auto qualify? I think if you won your group, you just auto qualified. So Team Liquid, they beat Legacy in the tiebreaker for first place, so they auto qualified for Worlds, where they would go on to place 3-3 in their group, end up finishing 1 game away from actually qualifying for the knockout stage at Worlds. So this is our first team that's actually made it out of the play-ins and actually qualified for the main stage. They went 1-1 against G2, 1-1 against Machi. They were actually the only team to drop a game to Machi in this group, and then 1-1 with the eventual second place finishers in Suning Gaming. So it was actually a really, really hard group for Team Liquid. You know, they had G2 who made the semis and Suning who made the finals, and Team Liquid actually took a game off both of them. So NA, even though they didn't make it out of groups, I think Team Liquid honestly had a decent showing last year. And then you also have FlyQuest who went 3-3 and just were a game out, and then TSM who went 0-6. Obviously 2019 Worlds for North America, Clutch Gaming was our playing team. They did go 2-2. They would end up beating Unicorns of Love before beating Royal Youth 3-0. So they did qualify for the group stage or the main event of the World Championships in 2019. But we had another 0-6 representative in Clutch Gaming, and then we had Cloud9 who went 2-4. And then finally Team Liquid again going 3-3, just missing out by a single game. But again, a very, very hard group for Team Liquid. Damwon Gaming and Invictus Gaming, they kind of keep getting unlucky with those draws. But again, when taking a look at these three teams, Detonation FocusMe, kind of LJL kind of at the bottom, LLA, and then LCS having a little bit better results, you know, slowly ramping up towards the top. Finally, we have the LCK representative, Damwon Gaming Kia, the defending world champions. Let's take a look at how the LCK season kind of panned out. Overall, we had Damwon Gaming Kia. We'll take a look at their roster first so we can go over it. Obviously, they have one change. They have Khan up in the top lane now as a new face. But then they have Canyon, Showmaker, Ghost, and Barrel with Coach Koma. So nothing too crazy different there. Overall, they went 16-2 in their matches, 89% win rate, 33-10 in games with a 77% win rate. Overall, was very, very impressive. They did drop a series to Fredit Brion and Gen G, so they dropped a series to the second best team in the LCK and the worst team in the LCK, which was a little bit weird. But overall, they were the top team in the LCK throughout most of the regular season, if not all the regular season. And then going into the spring playoffs, Damwon Gaming Kia did have a 3-0 against Hanwha Life, and then a 3-0 against Gen G in the finals. So they were very dominant in the regular season, very dominant in the playoffs, not even dropping a single game. They are headed into MSI looking very, very good, obviously as the defending world champions as well. Some people are kind of speculating that they maybe don't look as strong as they did last year, but damn, 16-2 in the regular season and then 6-0 in the playoffs in the LCK. When you had teams like Hanwha Life, like Gen G, and even like T1 at times looking pretty good. I don't know. I think Damwon Gaming is pretty scary, personally. Taking a look at the stats for some of these guys. Well, we'll take a look at this first. The LCK All-Pro first team did have 3 Damwon Gaming members in Khan, Canyon, and Showmaker. On the second team, they did have Barrel, their support, and on the third team, they had Ghost or AD Carry. So all 5 players getting a top 3 spot in the LCK. Also, we can take a look at their stats from the regular season, look at their champ pools and stuff a little bit. We do have Barrel, their support, with a 2.92 KDA, playing Gragas, Alistar, and Rel. Canyon in the jungle with a 4.65 KDA, playing Nidalee, Graves, and Hecarim. Ghost, again, the AD carry, 5.72 KDA, Kai'Sa, Xayah, and Senna. Then we have Khan up in the top lane, 4.03 on the Sion, Gnar, and Ornn, who is kind of a little bit different pick that we haven't seen from some of the other top laners. And then Showmaker in the mid lane, 6.46 KDA on Syndra, Zoe, and Victor. If we take a look at the most recent performances from the LCK, we did have, obviously, the LCK having Damwon Gaming, Gen G, and DRX last year. These guys all did qualify. You know, LCK obviously has had very, very good performances historically. Damwon Gaming going 5-1 in their group. Gen G 5-1 as well. DRX 4-2. And if that's your worst performer, you're doing pretty damn good. These guys obviously did make it all to the knockout stages, where we had the Gen G taking on G2, who did lose 3-0. But again, G2 is a very, very good team last year. Not necessarily anything terrible there. And then in the other stage, we had Damwon against DRX, a Korean on Korean matchup. So somebody had to lose there. Damwon with 3-0, who then went on to 3-1 G2, who then went on to 3-1 Suning Gaming. So obviously Damwon is the defending world champions. Like I said, LCK, they're the defending world champs. Worlds 2019, we actually had Damwon in the group stage, or in the play-in stage this time. They went 4-0. Things were looking pretty good. They beat Low-Key Esports, the Vietnamese team, 3-1, so they actually did drop a game there. But this was a young up-and-coming team who went 5-1 in their group stage, which was very, very good. We had had SKT going 5-1 as well, and then finally Griffin going 5-1. So the LCK teams looked very, very dominant there before the knockout stage. We also had Griffin beating G2 in the tiebreaker, and yeah, so that led into the knockout stage where Damwon did lose 3-1 to G2, kind of started that Damwon Gaming G2 rivalry. We had SKT beating Splice 3-1, and then Griffin losing 3-1 to IG. The one Korean team left was SKT, who lost 3-1 to G2, and that was where the SKT ended with just one team in the semifinals. But again, when comparing to all these other teams, that is much, much better international success than the other three teams have had as well. So again, this has been a long video. I didn't want to necessarily go over my predictions or anything yet, but I don't think I'm going to be picking anything too crazy, anything too different than kind of how the teams have looked historically, how these leagues have looked historically. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. This was my overall breakdown, everything you need to know about MSI Group C headed into the tournament. Just so you can see what things have been like in the past a little bit, so you can learn a little bit more about these players, these teams, these leagues, because it is a little bit hard to keep up on all of this stuff. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate it so much. Really helps me out the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment down below. What are you thinking about Group C? Are you thinking anybody's going to be able to beat Damwon? Are you thinking Damwon and Cloud9 are going to make it out? You have some crazy upset pick? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, stay up to date on my latest content. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!